What's up, everybody? What's up? We have set a record, I think, with the amount of streams in a few day span. We've put out 3 articles in a day. We've put out, I think, the most articles we put out in a single day, written articles released, published on the site, was probably 5 or 6, and that was, I think, in 2020, 2021, when it was like nonstop scandal news, just random stuff every which way. Just, this thing's happening. Coach O says this now. This guy's transferring. It's just craziness. One situation after another. But this is close up there with how many pieces of content we put out, how many live streams we've done. And thank you for joining us for all of them. If you have, thank you for joining us for one of them, 2 of them, however many times you've tuned in. We appreciate it big time. I think I was kind of baited into kind of a weird kind of square off with me versus the Baton Rouge media. I just think it's bullshit, and I don't really subscribe to that stuff. Sometimes you say things in the heat of the moment, and maybe you believe them right then, but in the full context of everything, you don't want people who have really stood by you and have really given a damn about what you've done when you're just a little speck on the map from way the hell far away, and they've actually done a hell of a lot for you, looked out for you big time. You don't want them to misconstrue any of this in some way or some fashion. The point of all of this is just that we'd kind of done that soliloquy about was just some internal frustrations of a young, vengeful reporter. Other than that, not too much context there. But otherwise, right now, LSU, John Emery Jr. returns. John Emery Jr. returns to the fold. How about this? John Emery Jr. returns. This guy, we thought his career was possibly done at LSU, right? That's his final year of eligibility, people thought. Even for a second, I did. I had to square that up with his father. I had to, hey, is John have eligibility? And then had to square that up with everybody and kind of figure out what's going on here. And I believe he had a medical year, or the COVID year, or maybe use the COVID year, medical year, either one. And so he has this extra year. And people were asking, of course, people were flooding the inbox of, what does this mean now? Is John recovered from the ACL? Is he fully recovered? And while I didn't know the answer to that question immediately, my first guess was he has to be, because not only did LSU really push for him, but also UCLA. UCLA were desperate to get him. They felt like, we're about to steal a guy here from the transfer portal. They felt like they were really about to make a big move, and it would have been a big move to get a guy like John Emery to UCLA. They could really use John. And instead, they get to watch him say, no, I'm not going to be a sissy powder blue UCLA Bruin. I'm going to stay home. I'm going to stay home at LSU and try and finish this story off right. And a lot of people are asking me, well, is he recovered? Is he okay? And I'm thinking, of course, he's got to be, because like I just said, LSU, UCLA both went in for him, but also he's looked pretty damn good. Like, he's looking in really good shape. He's looking like, I don't think rust or anything like that's going to be a factor. You've seen him come back from long layoffs before, multiple times, and he's been successful. So I'm wondering here and now, is John Emery Jr. going to be first, second string? What does everyone think? I think you got John Emery Jr. there to really make a push for everything here. Whether he's third string, second string, first string, I think he's going to be right in there, of course, with Josh Williams and Caleb Jackson. But make no mistake, for John Emery to commit, they know this is his last shot at NFL, getting that like big time NFL draft buzz going into the draft, being able to really make an impact on the draft. Not just as like a former prospect, but as a guy who has produced at the highest level in college football. And John Emery Jr., luckily, has had these moments in 2022 that have shown off his production. He's had a couple moments in 2019, 2020, 2021. Or sorry, he didn't play 2021, my bad. He's had these moments. But can he put it all together in one definitive season like we've all been waiting for, where he just goes off and just dominates? Can he beat out Caleb Jackson, who's looked, frankly, like a breakout star in the making? You know, Caleb Jackson has looked like he's going to be that guy. Like, you're going to trust Josh Williams with the football when the going gets tough, but you're going to you're going to give Caleb Jackson a lot of opportunities.
Entirely new offensive line. Emery swings around, takes the pass. Entirely new offensive line. Emery swings around, takes the pass.
You've got him dual threat. He's a guy that you can just be comfortable hitting the ball to in the flat.
Emery reaches out to the 30-yard line, costing that. Emery trying to find anything.
That's the thing I think they're going to wonder about LSU is, can he make these inside runs?
When the whole
can he really take advantage of this with this offensive line?
Second down, John
patiently
Emery Jr.
hesitate inside and then break it
gets across
outside.
The 40-yard line for the quickness, the explosion. They run back to the nice side. Look at that big hole.
If John is at even like, look at these moves. I mean, just that move big right there. It didn't go anywhere.
40, second down and 8.
But that's a bigger loss if he gets hit right there. Instead, he gets something.
Offensively here now, it's John Emery Jr.
Johnny be damn good.
John Emery Jr.
Oof.
And he pushes his
way.
On the
thumbnail for this
you see the replay here with Emery. They run the counter OT, comes around.
It's a handoff from Nuss.
Comes up here.
Like we might see.
He spins and dances a little bit. I like
that photo on
comes
the
around.
thumbnail.
Play the 38-0 lead. You see the replay.
An edit we made back in 2020.
John Emery Jr. And he pushes his way in the 38-0 lead. You see the replay here with Emery. They run the counter OT, comes around.
I think UNM,
comes up
right?
here.
New Mexico.
He spins and dances a little bit. I like to see him
you
put
got
foot
Besh right there,
and go
Mashburn.
right
over midfield.
That looks
John
like 2022.
Emery, remember, had that year-long suspension.
There's Besh again, but with Jaden Daniels.
John Emery, remember,
he had a very effective game against Auburn.
Recently. Goal range or perhaps more. Daniels out of the backfield. Emery. Here goes John Emery. And
almost got in there.
For a first and goal.
Almost got in there.
LSU.
Line scrimmage has to run with the back out of the backfield.
Great touch from Jaden Daniels there. That could have been an easy, batted pass.
If that back leaves, you have to peel with him.
If you make the wrong throw
doesn't. There's nobody home, and Emery has nothing but green grass.
get a
out
hand
in
on
front. It was a good job
Kick it
there in the
off.
back end by
John
Puckett
Emery
making
Jr.
the
trying to
pass.
literally sky
Out
the
in
dude
front.
right there.
It was a
Like,
good job there in the back end by Puckett, make green grass. Out in front. It was a good job there in the back end by Puckett, green grass.
rain of fire.
Out in front. It was a good job there in the back end by Puckett making the tackle. Out in front. It was a good job there in the back end by nothing but green grass. Out in front. It was a good job there in the back end by Puckett making the tackle.
Emery will get some more.
Just looked at me.
Able to bounce free. John Emery. There was nothing there.
Like a cycle right there. Okay. I think you know what you're going to get with John Emery. You're going to get explosion. You're going to get someone who can hit the home run hit to the house any play in the receiving game, in the rushing game. This is a true dual threat back. Do LSU have that right now? You could say that with Caleb Jackson. You can say that Josh Williams has also shown a lot of growing versatility as well in the receiving game. Last year, he had some big-time plays in the receiving game that absolutely broke the opponent's back. Like literally, Mike Denbrock was dialing up these back-breaking passes in the flat to the running backs, to the tight ends that a lot of people don't really remember because of the big-time showtime plays from Malik Neighbors and Brian Thomas Jr. But there were some critical plays from John Emery Jr. over the last few years that won games for LSU, set the tone for games for LSU against Alabama, against Florida in 2022 in that win. He scores the opening scores in both of those games. Against Auburn the last few years, he had 3 touchdowns against A&M. He's had his injuries, John Emery Jr. He's had some struggles with the injuries. He's been targeted by the NCAA with the whole academic thing. Thank God he's graduated and no one can pull any of this crap anymore. And no one can use any excuses to try and keep a top player off the field for LSU. You know what I'm saying? Like,
and then he bounced free to the
who
right
knows
side,
what was really going on? But, see, this is a beautiful play from John right here. This is probably his greatest play in LSU history. I remember just texting his family members, just going nuts. Look at this move right. Get off, mate. Oh, my good God. In a close game to take the lead on the road. Last time John had been there, they were getting killed. Auburn was killing us in 2020 at Jordan-Hare. We go back. Emery has a big part to play in the game-winning score. See, look at that. Once again, I told you, did I not tell you? Opening score against Florida. This is not only to tie the game, but to tell Florida we can keep pace with everything you do tonight. Not only that, we will outpace you offensively tonight, and we did in that game. Once again, that guy with a big tackle right there. I know he still got 13 yards right there. If John can escape, he is gone. And this is John Emery, probably, 80% health? Incredible. Just trips him up just in time. That's something we don't want to see too much, you know. Don't try and sky everybody, Johnny. Don't expose those legs. This is a big year for your career. Don't be exposing those legs unless, that's the right play. It's going to actually get you out of harm's way by doing it. You know you can make that move. Like, doing that in the middle of the field, never going to work out. Never going to work out. And look at that. John does great plays like this with his athleticism. His athleticism is so hard to contain. He forces things like this. A horse collar right here against Alabama. Brilliant play. The only way that dude could stop him. Look at that. Look at that strength. People say John's a finesse runner. Look at that. Drove him back. And look at that. Okay. This is the bulk of this offensive line for this season starting right here. Minus Charles Turner, Anthony Bradford. Okay. You put in Garrett Dellinger and DJ Chester. And then you have Will Campbell and Emery Jones, way better than they were even in 2022. Imagine how good those guys have become from 2022 to 2024. Light years. Those guys are improvement freaks. Same thing with Garrett Dellinger, Miles Frazier. They've gotten way better. We've said this before. We said this on the earlier shows. John Emery Jr. showing this type of strength, showing the previous type of finesse behind this offensive line in 2024. Good night, SEC. And then look at this. Once again, just like we just said, scores the opening touchdown against Alabama, sets the tone. He is wide open. Gone. And look at that. Makes the man miss. I mean, that move right there. See ya. Oh, my God. Who was number 2 for Alabama that year? Was that Caleb Downs? Who is that? Oh, my goodness. Oh, yeah. Who is number 2? We have to find out immediately. Unreal from John Emery Jr. See, what we're saying is that's why he was a top 10 player for us in 2022 on our top 10 was he made these plays when LSU had to have them offensively. Making guys miss at the 10-yard line, make sure you can get in there. Maybe, actually, no, it's from like the 7 or 8, but still. DeMarco Helms. Pretty pedigreed player. The Bayou Blur just turned him into quicksand. My Lord. Hey, buddy, you want some water? LSU football fan. Such a generic name you got there, buddy. I like it, though. He says, does bringing John back mean they are not expecting Trey Holly to be available? We have gone over this before. This is why I hope you go to LSUODYSSEY.com and read what we've already put out there, watch what we've already put out there, because we go into it in even more detail. But I can give you a quick overview. Because the judge was a relative of the arresting officer in the Trey Holly case, the judge that was originally assigned Trey Holly case, he had to recuse himself from the case, which is the right thing to do. And so the case, as legally these things happen, was pushed back an entire year. And so because even though he's presumed innocent, the charges are still, I believe felonies, possibly. I don't want to say that and be wrong. Let me make sure. They're pretty tough charges. The attempted murder charges are gone, but the gun charges are still in there for Trey Holly. And that's what he's had to deal with. And those have not gone away, sadly. And because of this whole thing, it's postponed everything by a year. And because of his status, Kelly is not going to reinstate him. until his stuff is legally figured out. And I know that sounds like, what is that? That's ridiculous, you know? Yeah, that's insane. Why isn't Kelly, you know, reinstating him? It's like no coach, except for one that I can think of, has ever reinstated a player before. And the reason you don't is because of the Lawrence Phillips factor. You know, this is, you know, when Tom Osborne, there in Nebraska, says, hey, we're going to have Lawrence Phillips still play in this national championship game, even though he just beat the crap out of this woman right in front of our backup quarterback who watches the whole thing happen like a coward, Scott Frost, now former Nebraska head coach as well, Scott Frost, watches the whole thing happen while this woman is beaten up, terribly dragged around like a rag doll by Lawrence Phillips. And, you know, this horrible abusive thing happens. And what's his name? Tom Osborne, this legendary coach who's now status and his memory has literally been, legacy has been tainted really by this, because Lawrence Phillips not only came back and committed more crimes and continued to be frankly out of line throughout the rest of time, he then went to prison and ended his own life in prison. And Tom Osborne would visit him in prison. It was just a very dark thing, and it was set up by a world of no consequences, a world of no accountability with anything. Even though we know Trey Holly is innocent, most likely, of these charges, even though we know Trey Holly has basically been thrown in here completely unfairly, his story has nothing to really do with Lawrence Phillips. It does in this one respect. It does in the respect that when a player is still facing legal charges, it is just almost never going to happen that they're going to be reinstated, no matter how much you know they're innocent. They could have video proving it's innocent, but it's still hung up in the legal process. You know, that could be very, you know, maybe on the fence. Maybe I could see some coaches being like, okay, I've got video footage proving he was here, and this is when the murder happened at 9:10. Okay, he's at a casino at 9:10, and this case is still taking a year. I don't care. We know he's innocent. Boom. You know, this isn't that cut and dry. You know, there's not so much proof on his side, even though he's innocent and he's got evidence on his side. It's a lot more complex than that. And sadly, it's delayed things for Trey Holly. And it sucks because Trey Holly was due for a year where he's going to get the rotational reps. But, man, when he gets in the game, he's going to have an impact. We've seen it. He was SEC Freshman of the Week. We forget that last year. SEC Freshman of the Week for having a 100-yard game against Army, I believe. Yeah, so Trey Holly, he scored in the spring game as well. So, like, a year ago. He's just a dude who's always going to make big-time plays. He's always going to get in the end zone. He was a touchdown freak. At his time. He set LHSAA records for touchdowns and yards, breaking Nick Brissett's records, Kevin Falk's records. I mean, this is crazy. What we're talking about is a dude who has historical greatness, and he's facing this stuff that is sadly postponing what is possible for him. I feel bad for Trey Holly. However, this has opened an almost life-changing door for John Emery Jr. here. And it seems in a weird way like a weird destiny thing. Trey Holly wasn't going to be ready to start or play significant reps anyway this season. And he was going to just play kind of like some resting reps, give some guys a breather and just be there as insurance for Caleb and Josh, really. And I think he would have had a chance to take the starting job a year later, possibly. Now you have John Emery Jr. coming in. He would have been buried on the board even more, buried on the roster even more. It's such a great scenario for John to come back because he's got this shot here. I feel bad for Trey because, you only, even though you're third on the roster and you're only going to get these rotational breather reps, it's only one injury away from you being the second string guy. And then maybe you just edge out the other guy, like it's that close. And it sucks for Trey Holly that's not going to happen this year. And it's how slow the justice system moves is almost criminal in and of itself. But on the bright side, if this hadn't happened, John Emery Jr. would not have had an overture maybe from Frank Wilson. Maybe he does. Maybe Frank Wilson still goes in season. But maybe it would be wrong of Frank to go and see him at that point and be like, hey, come on a team where you could be third or fourth on the roster. Like, at that point, that's, if things don't work out your way, you could be third or fourth on the roster. That's on your last season of eligibility. That'd be messed up. So I don't think Frank Wilson would have been pursuing him at that point, and that's why he entered the portal to begin with. He had a feeling that LSU aren't even realizing that I have another year of eligibility. They think I'm too hurt to play. And, he actually was able to play. And so you're seeing Trey, sadly, going to miss out this season. And it opens this door crazily for John Emery Jr. Unthinkable almost. Let's see what else we've got here. Chester Langston. Will we get another cornerback in the portal? I think so. I think it's going to take a while, though. But I think so. I think it might take a bit of time. Oh, a Nussmeier shot to Malik Neighbors. That's sick. I think so. I think we've got to. Not only does LSU have to. Here's what I was wanting to show you. Trey Holly's touchdown run. Boom. Or one of his runs. I think you're going to see LSU go get a corner. We don't know who just yet. And we're not going to speculate wildly, throw around names, do any of that bullshit. When we have a solid name, some solid actual targets, guys who coaches are talking to, who've made contact with, there's Trey Holly going free. Then that is when we will deliver that information. But we know for a fact LSU are looking for corners. We know for a fact LSU are looking to solidify any position on roster that might be a little, have some worries. They just did that at punter with Blake Oceandorf. Blake Oceandorf comes in now to really push Peyton Todd, really make sure Peyton Todd has everything dialed in going into this season. And I think it's a brilliant move from Kelly, because Kelly was pissed as hell after that spring game, right? Kelly was like, shit, man, we're not taking this. We're not taking this. You cannot punt like this. We have had such bad special teams the last few years that when they open spring game, punting like that, I mean, the crowd was aghast. So was I at home. I'm just watching. I'm just like, we're all here, sitting here worried about what's the defense going to look like. We have nothing to worry about the defense of Blake Baker. They will figure it out as long as they play aggressive. They play full on. They play man coverage on the outside. They actually jam guys at the line. They stay aggressive. We will be fine. We will win more games than we lose. We will commit more turnovers. We'll get more sacks than we did last year by far. We will improve greatly on last year. But the special teams we overlooked. And maybe the special teams is going to be a disaster this season. Just from the warm-up kicks we're seeing and that type of stuff. I kind of say hold your horses, because we got Blake Oceandorf now, who is going to at least make sure that quality control is there for Peyton Todd. He's at least going to make sure there's some type of quality control. Okay. And then you're going to have Peyton Todd giving it his all there from the punting position. And maybe Blake Oceandorf takes the job outright. That could be possible as well. Sorry, buddy, that's my phone. Can't do that. Maybe he steals this job outright. Seiji. Come on, let's play outside. Maybe he steals this job outright. Because it looked bad in spring, and Peyton Todd's got to get it together. And that's why I love competition, is because it is going to keep Peyton Todd absolutely at his optimum punting the football. And LSU cannot suffer any special teams screw-ups or lapses this season. Having special teams problems this season would be on top of trying to figure everything out on defense, on top of trying to make sure there's continuity in the offense with new offensive coordinators. I mean, I understand there should be continuity there when you got the quarterback's coach moving in and the receivers coach, and we saw them in the bowl game, yada yada yada. Whole different ball game. SEC. Whole new landscape. Texas, Oklahoma in the SEC now. All the eyes on, like, it's a whole much bigger thing than the ReleafMed Bowl. We'll say that. With all this going on, you cannot afford to be just fucking around with special teams. Slade Nagel's got to get it right. We cannot suffer any special teams bullshit this season. LSU hasn't been able to really make you feel comfortable about special teams for 2 years, except for when Jay Bramblett's been punting. And Jay Bramblett, because he didn't punt as much last year, he had a pretty actually mediocre for him, a lukewarm year for him. Whereas Zach Von Rosenberg, he didn't punt as much as he did in 2018, 2017 when he goes into 2019. And yeah, maybe once or twice he would have a howler. He would respond with a boot down the field and win games for LSU with his punting. Keep LSU in the lead. Keep LSU, protect our defense. And always give us a chance. Even when he was like just kind of rusty, not really punting, our offense is just flying. It's a shootout. But then when you're required to really pin someone deep, he would do it. Jay Bramblett, it seemed, had issues with that in 2023. And Damian Ramos, man, he has had some fantastic moments. Kick at the Swamp in Florida. Almost seems like a rite of passage to nail a game-winning, game-sealing type kick in the fourth quarter at the Swamp. Damian Ramos has done that. What Damian Ramos has not done is stay at a consistent level. I mean, he pounded every single extra point last year. I believe he was absolutely 100%. But when you're talking about field goals, obviously last year wasn't going to be used too often. And I feel like the lack of use, he missed. I'm trying to remember when he missed a crucial one, but it was in some game this last year where he misses this crucial field goal. Let me look this up right here. Game logs. See, look at that. Only 12 of 15 last year. Only 15 total field goal attempts. Yeah, he missed a big one against Mizzou. I remember that one. That was like a short shot. A short kick against Mizzou. Yep, and misses that one. And it was like, what is going on? And he made 77 of 77 extra points. Damian Ramos last year. 1 of 1 field goals against Florida State. 2 of 2 against Mississippi State. 2 of 2 against Arkansas. 0 of 1 against Ole Miss. I remember that was another big miss. Yes, he missed one against Ole Miss that was huge. Could have kept us in that game. People don't remember. That game was actually close. Even though LSU's defense got destroyed. What you doing, Zaji? He wants me to play him and get off this thing. Right? I should in a bit here. 0-1 against Alabama, another big miss in a big game as well. And then 1 of 1 against Florida, and then 0-0, 0-0, 0-0 the last 3 games. But he's at least reliable from PATs. He's going to be that kicker. He's someone we can at least say he's our guy. He's our kicker. You know, Damian Ramos for me, I'm all about him. I think we've kind of played devil's advocate. We've kind of looked at the good, the bad. We've kind of said, okay, he's missed some big kicks. He's done this. He's done that. He's been consistent with extra points. He's solidified that, which was garbage in 2022 at times. There's still some concerns, not going to lie. And those have to be kicked away, really. LSU this season have to tackle away the concerns on defense. They have to sack away, pressure away, clog away the concerns on the defensive line. They have to kick away the concerns on the special teams with the kicker. Damian Ramos has to, you know. It's really that simple. LSU've got to deliver this season on the field. No more, hey, we're going to discuss how good we're going to be, you know. We've got to do it. Oh, yeah, we already got his comment. Hermload, so it says, who is our backup quarterback this fall? A lot of people think it'll be A.J. Swan. I'm not too convinced 100% it will be Swan. I think it could be Ricky Collins. But, you know, the way that Colin Hurley was throwing the football, not only in the spring game, but all throughout spring, coming on as a freshman, I'm sorry, but as someone who wants pure quarterbacking talent back there, not just, hey, he's the guy who's been here longer. Like, I don't care about that. I want someone who's going to win a game. I understand you need to be, like, psychologically ready, regardless of your talent. If you're that talented already, you're going to be psychologically ready. So what are we talking about here? Like, and when you look at Colin Hurley, he is ready. I'm not saying ready to just throw him in there, screw up his development by throwing him in there against Alabama. You know, Nussmeier gets hurt in the first quarter, down 13-0. Throw him in there. No. That's probably a situation where you might have to really consider what you're doing there if you're going to go with Ricky Collins or if you're going to go for A.J. Swan there. That's going to be a really interesting thing because I think you go for A.J. Swan, you're almost telling me that you're not trying to win the game. You're trying to just like hold serve and be conservative and try not to lose the game. But you're not really trying to go win it. You put out Ricky Collins, I feel like you're trying to win it. You put out Colin Hurley, I feel like you're trying to go win the game. You know what I'm saying? That's what I've seen from their unbelievable talent this last spring. And I think Colin Hurley actually has maybe an advantage or two over Ricky Collins. Maybe the prime advantage Ricky has is that he's been there for a season. That's it. That's it. So for me, Colin Hurley is my backup quarterback if I had to pick a guy right now. True freshman, I understand. I want him as the backup quarterback. And you've seen him learning from Garrett Nussmeier, almost like Garrett Nussmeier has taken him directly under his wing. In fact, we have sources who've given us that information, basically verbatim, that quote, taken Colin Hurley under his wing, Nussmeier has. And so I think you're going to see a young man develop quickly here with Colin Hurley. So Colin Hurley would be my backup quarterback right now. DJ, what's up, brother? How you doing, man? He says, do you think Javian Toviano can lock up one of those cornerback spots? I think he really has to be given every opportunity to be able to do that. I don't care about how many experienced guys you might think you have with the Ohio State transfers. None of those guys have really got that much experience. J.K. Johnson, Jair Brown, those guys haven't played much football. They've been hurt. And I understand that, you'd rather have experience at corner. But here's the thing. You want to have someone who can actually do it at corner. That's what you want. When we had experience at corner, we got shredded last season. When we had youth and inexperience at corner, it was the middle of the field that the offenses actually attacked. They didn't even dare to really attack the outside unless it was a gimme touchdown. They'd burnt us to a crisp, running us into the ground all day. And so throw a bomb after you've tired our corners. They make a freshman mistake, boom, which happened to Ashton Stamps. Toviano was really clean in his play, had a sick-ass fumble recovery against Florida, racked up the tackles, racked up the stats against Florida. Let's bring it up right here. We put up a 2024 profile. On Javian Toviano. We just wrote that 2024 profile on Toviano. And we really expect big things from him. We expect him to ascend. Sage. What's up, you little gooseman? You're not getting into any crazy things? He wants me to play with him. I feel bad. I'm going to have to get off this in a bit. Hey, Seiji, I have an idea. God, these stupid ads. Here we go. Here's our Toviano profile right there at LSUODYSSEY.com. We literally just went right here to LSU 2024, clicked this category, and it went right to their seat. You can click this thing right here. It brings it down to any category. Joe Burrow category, 2019 LSU, 2020 LSU, 2021 LSU, 2022. We could actually also add a LSU 2018 because that was the first season that we did We should convert all of our first articles over from that blog spot. They're weird articles, but we should do that and then add that section. Just to have that blast from the past, I think. We got a section on Kelly, on the portal. Of course, right here, the LSU Odyssey news desk thing. This is the first thing right here. That's where we put all of the stuff that's breaking. Like, that is where the news that is breaking from us will be coming from and will be posted. But here's the thing. It's all posted on the home front. It's all right here on the content home. Right here or here. And it's all right there. But I'm just saying, when you want to search for something quickly, boom, 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 boom. We even have a section for JV and Toviano. So you can find the last few profiles and articles that mention him at length. They're all in there. And we write, despite his 5-star prospect status or the fact he started and impressed at corner in the final few games of 2023, JV and Toviano has gone under the radar this offseason. Don't you agree? He's really gone under the radar, DJ. Including a spring camp where he played a frequent amount of reps with the first and second team, rotating back and forth. Toviano's name was rarely mentioned outside of some transfer speculation, which quickly flamed out. I'm not sure if any of you paid attention or noticed that. We were hearing a lot about that, but it never became anything, never pulled the trigger on it, never wanted to, because I didn't want it to make it a bigger deal than it was. So just wanted to let it kind of fizzle out and die. And it did. Thank God. Though a lack of microscopic attention from fans and media can be a great thing for a redshirt freshman corner, either due to quarterbacks being fearful or of throwing his way, equaling lesser targets, or as an active consequence of lukewarm performances. But neither category accurately defines the progress of Toviano. Good God. Let me just read that again. Though a lack of microscopic attention from fans and media can be a great thing for a redshirt freshman corner, which he is. He's barely played, but his snap counts significantly higher or right in that mode of other guys who are getting a lot of attention. And that could be either, he's not getting that microscopic attention from fans or the media, either due to quarterbacks being fearful of throwing his way. Every second in practice, it seemed like Ashton Stamps was getting tested more. And it seems like you see Stamps getting the ball caught on him more in some of that footage. You see it with Toviano. He gets burnt in some of the footage. And then a lot of the practice footage that we were able to obtain, yes, both Toviano and Stamps get cooked. But I've got to say, Stamps got cooked a lot more. Toviano would hold his own and have these battles with Lacey, have these battles with Hilton, and things got intense. Like, they got angry with each other. They wanted to fight each other a few times. And it was DBU, wide receiver U, were jawing. They were there was some shit going down in practice. And Toviano's a fighter. While the former Martin High 5-star supplied solid coverage during spring practices, receiving plenty of technique attention and drill work from Corey Raymond, he was tested consistently by a high-flying Kyron Lacey and Chris Hilton Jr., both catching long-range passes on Toviano amid LSU's spring 2024 scrimmages, as we just told you. He also still won his share of reps, was fantastic through spring at times, and I think just getting burnt, knowing how good he is, it's going to make him better. Getting burnt is going to happen to any corner. Okay? Like, any corner. You're going to lose at some point. And so you've got a guy who's this talented, who's had a really good establishment freshman frame when he came on and played against Alabama at Florida. He really had a good start to his career. And then maybe he's learning a thing or two the hard way. He's been beaten by neighbors. He's been beaten by Thomas Jr. He's been beaten by, now Kyron Lacey, Chris Hilton Jr. It's something that is going to make him better, in my opinion. "68 snaps he played against Alabama. 68 snaps. He allowed just one catch, just one total target his direction. Obviously, that's because Alabama ran it right down our throats. Jalen Milroe didn't need to run, but still. Against the Gators is where he was fantastic, even more. You see that photo right there. 11 tackles, broke up 2 passes. He recovers that fumble. And yes, he does give up 5 catches from 7 targets for 89 yards. So he does allow some big catches. But he makes a huge play that wins that game and turns the tide, which is Braden Swinson's strip sack. And he's there to be the Johnny on the spot and recover it. And LSU win because of a play by that true freshman. So, to answer your question, DJ, do you think Javian Toviano can lock up one of those cornerback spots? Of course he can. The real question you should be asking me is, will he? I believe he should. I believe that's a guy I would start. Just considering his abilities where he is right now. But you've got so many guys in that room that you can trust, you think, right? P.J. Woodland played really well. And, of course, you got Ashton Stamps. Of course, you got Zy Alexander. Zy Alexander had some strong moments last year. He also got absolutely crisped, burnt and turnt last year. I understand. He had the most pass breakups, the most interceptions. Okay, he should. He was targeted ridiculously a lot. And he allowed big play after 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 big play. And I want to see guys who can actually fight on the outside. And the way that we put, it is kind of hard for me to even criticize Zy Alexander because it's like, look at the coverage he had to play last year. It's the same type of soft coverage that Sage Ryan had to play where guys were going to make catches on you because you had to play so off. You had to play 15 yards off. And then they forced you to have, you must have 5-10 yards of separation at all times. It's just nuts the way that Matt House wanted that set up. And it embarrassed a lot of the guys, and it's really not their fault. So we'll see what Zy Alexander can do. He didn't play through spring, he was hurt, but I think Zy Alexander, Javian Toviano, I'm okay with that tandem. Javian Toviano, Ashton Stamps, is that too young? I don't think so. I think you could still roll with that. But if exposed, I think you still really need to change things up, whoever it is. Toviano I love as a player, though. And he's someone that I want to see be that absolute dog at LSU, where you've got Toviano at corner. You got Perkins at linebacker. Whit Weeks at linebacker. You got Sage Ryan at safety. Jordan Gilbert at safety. Ashton Stamps at corner. You're talking about an absolute freakish secondary. Hey, Bubba. Chris Melder, what's up, Chris? My man, he says Toviano is the man. Mark my words, he will be an All-American before he leaves. Well, I mean, that really depends on the opportunities, and we'll see what he can take advantage of them. And I think he wants the Cheez-Its. He's reaching for the Cheez-Its. Here, buddy, I'll get you him. Just say, hey, Dada, give me the Cheez-Its. 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 Huh. Cheez-Its. Yeah, I mean, I could see Toviano have to be on the bench for a few games and kind of work his way in the season. I could also see him start from the beginning against USC. I could see a lot of different kind of things happen with Toviano. Him transferring this offseason would have really been a low-key disaster. I think a lot of people would have tried to push the narrative of, oh, this won't matter. This doesn't mean anything for LSU. And LSU will be fine. And like everyone always says with every transfer. But I think that low-key, that Toviano leaving and a transfer this offseason would have been like, you know, Mekhi Wingo, Mason Smith going to the draft, you know. Like, maybe not that impactful because we've got so many guys that can cover Toviano at corner, but I think when you see what he's going to do this season and how good he's going to be, how trustworthy we're going to have as a player, I think you will think, wow, that would have been insane to lose that guy to the portal. DJ brings up a fantastic point. He says, Corey Raymond started a lot of younger players over his past time at LSU, and they all had success. Yes, they did. Cordell Flott was unbelievable in 2019. Jay Ward came off the bench and was unbelievable in 2019 as a freshman, too. Stingley, we know what he did as a freshman in 2019. Should have been SEC Player of the Year. He wasn't even SEC Defensive Player of the Year. He should have been. I don't even know if he was SEC Freshman of the Year that year, actually. Was he? Because he damn well should have been. He should have won something. Sorry, I'll finish reading DJ's question. DJ asks, do you think this is something he will continue to do under BK? Because BK seems to favor veterans. I think that's where you're going to see the staff maybe have some clashes and maybe have to make some compromises. Maybe have to say, hey, Coach, I understand you call the shots. I understand you are the guy. I'm the decider. You know what George Bush used to say? I'm the decider. But I think you're going to see a new philosophy creep in here where the coaches are just going to force it. They're going to say, Coach, we got to play this kid. You know? He's too young. He's got NIL. But I don't care. We're not going to pay for players. Coach Kelly, you don't have to be ornery every second. Coach Kelly, you don't have to always look like someone just toilet papered your house and put barbecue sauce in your gas tank or something. Like, he always looks like he's just caught the teenage hoodlums in the neighborhood, you know? Like, yeah, when he's pissed off. Hey, Sage, you want some yogurt? Sage, come here. Not Corey Raymond. Chris Melder says he's got a great name. Kids with great names are almost always solid. Hopefully Major Burns can live up to it this year. Who do you mean has a great name? Obviously Major Burns is what you were saying, but who else? Toviano? That's kind of... Yeah, I mean, Toviano, that is kind of a cool name. Yes, that's what Chris Melder is meaning. Toviano is and he does have a cool name. I didn't ever think of that. Javian is actually a pretty sick name. Sage, yogurt. I think LSU have to get this right at corner and safety, and I don't think they have to get it right in the first week. I don't think they necessarily are gonna, they're gonna lose to USC if the starting corners can't figure it out. They'll just sub them off and get the right mix out there. But going forward, when we have that, who is it? We play Mississippi State, and then we play South Carolina, right? Let me look at the schedule here. And then, there's a few games early that are extremely tough. There's USC, of course. There we go. USC, and then, of course, Nichols. And then, and then it's at South Carolina, okay? And then it's UCLA at home against, LSU in Tiger Stadium. The team that John Emery Jr. could have gone on. Get the ball, Stagey, get the ball. Yogurt. Be careful. Don't run into the spoon. You don't want any more yogurt? Okay. Okay. Let's see here. So out South Carolina, UCLA, Ole Miss, Arkansas, at Arkansas, at A&M, all before you get even to November. Alabama, first 10 days of November, of course. At Arkansas, at A&M, Ole Miss in front of that. What a tough sled right there. Tough sledding right there. We do have the bye week on October 5th. So October 5th will be our official bye week. And then it seems like we get another bye week. It seems like we have almost 2 bye weeks. See, look, there's a game on the 28th, and then there's no game on the 5th, and then there's a game on the 12th against Ole Miss. So we got 1 bye week there. And then, of course, there's another bye week with A&M, and there's interesting. We'll take it, won't we? I'm not worried about Vanderbilt, Oklahoma, or even the Florida game. I'm worried about that Ole Miss at Arkansas, at A&M, and then, of course, Alabama maybe getting lucky because we've had to go through a gauntlet. Maybe we have a few injuries in those games. But at the same time, Alabama are free-falling, everybody. Kalen DeBoer is losing people left, right, and center, having to go to SMU to get players, to get quarterbacks. Alabama look like they are absolutely done. Could be wrong. But I may be right. Saturday, I did my live stream. Hey, Seiji, some fruits? Seiji, some fruits? You don't want any more? Okay. That schedule is very interesting. You've got some real pockets of trouble there, especially if LSU loses to USC in that first game. If LSU loses to USC in that first game, we could be in massive trouble to make the college football playoff. And I'm telling you, We do not qualify for the college football playoff. What was it, the 15, 16 team playoff, whatever the hell it is? Like, there's a ton of teams in this playoff. We don't qualify for that. There will be major questions for Brian Kelly to answer. I'm just going to say that. Like, it will be – that is not only the expectation for LSU, that is the minimum for LSU from here on out. We understand that, right? It used to be when LSU lost a couple games, it was like, season's done. We can just get the Sugar Bowl at the most here, you know? And if we had a game in New Orleans where we beat the shit out of, you know, Notre Dame or whatever, okay, we'll Illinois, we'll take that. But to have an opportunity where you can lose one or two games and still have a chance to compete for a national championship, maybe you have to play one more game than everybody else, whatever. Because the top-seeded teams have a first-round bye, I believe, yes. Okay, so be it. We host that game in Death Valley and we kick the shit out of someone, rest our team the whole second half. Okay. Like, LSU have to qualify for a college football playoff tournament from here on out, or else it is not a successful season. And it's not that it's not even a successful season, it's that it is an absolute abject failure of a season if you don't qualify for a college football playoff tournament at this point. Especially when you are trying to go after the recruits LSU have, when you have the number 2 ranked high school recruiting class of 2025, which was number 1 for a long time, for about 7 months. You have the number 1 class quarterback, Bryce Underwood. You have the number 1 running back. You have a number 1 receiver who was just barely committed to you. He hasn't flipped anywhere yet. He is still very much in play, and Jamar Chase just hung out with him as well. You have a brand that is bigger, is badder. It is sicker. It is more marketable. It is more interesting. It is more entertaining. It is more successful than any other 21st century program in college football history, except for Alabama. The same guy who built the standards of the program that we currently have. So basically, you could say Alabama was built in LSU's image over the last few years when they were successful. And not only that, you can say it was built off of the labor, off of the legs, off of the pain, off of the suffering, off of the injuries, the toil, the torment, the determination, the success of Louisiana talents that Saban would come into the state and poach. So you've now got LSU in a moment where all of this could align. There's no Saban anymore. And even if there was, Brian Kelly was already living rent-free in his head. You beat someone on a 2-point conversion, that's usually what's going to happen. Especially when it's done like that. I mean, my God, the balls of Brian Kelly in that moment. I can't say I would have made that call. I would have thought about it. I can't say I would have had the stones to do it, though, because it was such a big moment, and I had such confidence that, yeah, we can keep this thing going all night. We can keep matching you guys all night, and then at some point you guys aren't going to do it because our defense is going to step up or you're just going to screw up. It's going to happen. We're gonna beat you guys here. But then it was like, you know what? Let's don't get into that with Saban, and let's don't even sacrifice or worry about anything here. Let's end this now, where we know we got them by the balls, and they can't stop Mason Taylor tonight. They can't stop Jaden Daniels tonight, no matter what he's doing. And so they did it, and it's something I think was living rent free in Saban's head anyway. So now you have a chance where you got Brian Kelly, you have an LSU program, a lot's expected. Even after LSU lost 3 first-round picks on offense. Your 2 number 1 and number 2 starting receivers, your Heisman-winning quarterback, arguably like the big key loss of any team. You lose a Heisman quarterback, usually it's expected you're going to have a transition year the next year, right? And not only a year of transition, but you're probably going to struggle. So, you've got Nussmeier. You've got Kyron Lacey. You've got Chris Hilton Jr. You don't have Brian Thomas Jr. You don't have Malik Neighbors. You don't have Jaden Daniels. You don't have – it's okay. You still have enough to do the job. You still have enough to make it happen with LSU this season. Brian Kelly has enough. One second. Sage playing some intermission music for us. Stop turning the volume up, buddy. Let's put it let's compromise here, okay? Daddy's trying to do this. We'll be done in a sec. Brian Kelly has a tremendous opportunity here. He's got the greatest offensive line, single offensive line he's ever had as a college coach. He just is coming off the season with the greatest quarterback he's ever had, and he's got a quarterback in Garrett Nussmeier who I think you could argue, is probably at least in the top 2 or 3, maybe 4 as far as quarterback talent that Brian Kelly has ever coached. You could literally make a legit argument that he's the second most talented quarterback Brian Kelly's ever coached at this moment, only behind Jaden Daniels. Like, you could make that argument with who Coach Kelly has coached. So you've got unbelievable amount of weapons. You got an offense where we forget about guys like Aaron Anderson being on this team, Xavier Thomas being on this team. Receiver, you have a bevy of weapons, a litany of weapons, a plethora of weapons, a cavalcade of weapons. It is insane how much firepower Nussmeier has at his disposal in the tight end room, not as well as the receiving room. You've got the greatest tight end room talent LSU's ever had. Is that hyperbole? I don't think so at all. LSU's greatest tight end in history only had like 962 career yards, Richard Dixon. Only had 10 career touchdowns. Mason Taylor is going to break those records, all of them, within a few plays, a few games this year. And he, barely got the ball as much as we expected him to last year. So Mason Taylor, you've got Trey'Dez freaking Green, who's an absolute generational talent, and he might be on the bench kind of as a project. You've got Mac Markway, who's proven to be a complete tight end in this offense, at least in the Mike Denbrock offense, and caught a touchdown at one point as well. Same amount of touchdowns as Mason Taylor had all season. So you've got versatility there. You've also got Kamorion Pimpton with his height and his length. You've got some unbelievable red zone targets. And at receiver, the the weapons just go on and on and on. Kyron Lacey, Chris Hilton Jr., Aaron Anderson in the slot, Xavier Thomas in the slot, C.J. Anderson, transfer coming in who 1,000 yards, double-digit touchdowns last year at Liberty. What could he blossom into this season with Nussmeier throwing him that deep ball? So, it's a very tantalizing offense. This offense could be even more entertaining to watch than the Jaden Daniels 2023 freak off, because that was special. But it was almost like a video game. You knew it was coming because it was like, oh, Jaden's got it. He's like 10 yards away from the touchdown or from the end zone. And it's like, yep, he's got it. You would literally look away when he's still got like 10, 15 more yards to go. It was so just easy. If Jaden Daniels had not won the Heisman Trophy last year, it would have been a scandal that would have echoed into eternity. Because he was so good. It was almost like watching a video game where he's just so much better than everybody else. It was almost fake. You're not going to have that feeling every second with Garrett Nussmeier because he's not the athlete that Jaden Daniels is. But I think what Nussmeier is going to produce passing the football, distributing the football to his teammates, unleashing the true talents of those around him, like totally, very minimal rushing yards going his way. It's all going to be about his teammates and setting them up. I think you're going to be possibly even more amped up when he reaches those heights, when he gets to those points, when he gets to that Heisman discussion, when he has those 6 touchdown, 7 touchdown games. That's what LSU quarterbacks do. You've heard Bryce Underwood talk about it. He wants to be 2019 on steroids. Okay. Jaden Daniels just, tried to do that as well and got pretty damn close. Yeah. If he had played 15 games, maybe he would have been able to do that. And now you've got Garrett Nussmeier in an opportunity where he could really put up some savage numbers. Hell, even Miles Brennan, Max Johnson, even they put up crazy numbers. Max Johnson right now is the dude who LSU quarterback who threw to an LSU receiver who has the single all-time record for most yards in an SEC game, most receiving yards in an SEC game, and that's Max Johnson. A quarterback most LSU fans regard as a failure at LSU holds an SEC all-time single-game receiving record, was a part of it. The point is, LSU have had some insane quarterbacking talent over the last 5 years. And it's because Joe Burrow came into LSU and said, I'm going to make you all believe that you can. I'm going to make you all believe that you're a quarterback school. Say you want some toast? No. All right, buddy, we're going to say bye to everybody. Bye. Everybody. Bye. We're going to be posting an article tonight that you will definitely want to check out. If you want to check out an awesome interview, we just had one with Zach Von Rosenberg, LSU's 2019 legendary punter. We've got it's almost 2 hours of an interview, and it's an epic, deep interview with this guy. Unbelievable from the legendary Tiger. We could not thank him enough. It's there, right there on LSUOdyssey.com. Under the exclusive interviews tab, so definitely check that out. Everybody, have a good one. Definitely keep an eye out for that article.